Hello and welcome to the class. My name's Paddy. Today we're going to be talking about letters of complaint and letters of application for general training writing task 1 in the IELTS test. After this class, if you have any questions for us, you can click on the chat icon at the top of your page here. Clicking on that icon will allow you to send us a message with any questions that you have. This is the first of 2 classes, and this video will last just over 20 minutes. In this class, we're going to focus on letters of complaint. During this class, there will be some questions for you to answer. You can find these below the video. I will tell you when you need to answer these questions, and I will give you about 10 to 15 seconds to do so. Okay, let's get started. So what is a letter of complaint? We write a letter of complaint after something happened in the past which we're not happy about. For example, we stayed at a hotel last weekend and we had a bad experience. Or it could be something that is currently happening. For example, your neighbor plays loud music every night. This action or activity caused us some inconvenience, discomfort, or dissatisfaction. We are not happy about it. We want the reader to understand the nature of the problem and why we are not happy about it. In our letter, we will also expect them to do something in response to this. This could be to apologize to us, maybe to compensate us, like give us a refund, maybe fix the problem, or it could just be to stop doing it in the case of your neighbor. It's important that you are polite in your letter. You don't want to sound aggressive or angry. So we want to show that we are dissatisfied and not happy, but not that we're angry, which can be a difficult balance to get. This is why the language that we use needs to be formal or semi-formal. Informal language risks sounding a little bit aggressive. We're going to look at an example question for this type of letter. Let's read the question. You recently stayed in a hotel in a city. During your stay, the weather was very unusual for this time of year. The hotel's heating or cooling system was inadequate for dealing with the temperature. Write a letter to the hotel manager. In your letter, give details of the problem, explain how you dealt with the problem, and state what action you would like the hotel to take. So I can see stayed up here in the past, so it's giving me a context of something that happened in the past. I'm writing a letter to a hotel manager. I'm going to give details of the problem and state what action I would like the hotel to take. So that first bullet point, give details of the problem, shows that I'm going to describe a problem in the past. And then the third bullet point is, I want the hotel to do something about this. So this is clearly a letter of complaint. You will always see something like explain the problem and then explain what you want the person to do about it in a letter of complaint question. Now, as with all task 1 letters, we need to think about who and why. First of all, who? Who we'll be writing to, and so what register should our English be in? Look at the first question below this video. Choose the correct option. Decide if it's formal, semi-formal, or informal. So this is going to be a formal letter. We're writing to the hotel manager. This is not somebody that you have a close personal relationship with. In fact, you probably didn't meet them and you probably don't even know their name. So this is a formal letter to a business or an organization. Letters of complaint will be formal or semi-formal. A semi-formal letter you would write to maybe a neighbor or a colleague. Now let's think about why we're writing the letter. Let's underline some keywords in the question that's going to help us with the context. So we recently stayed in a hotel in a city. During our stay, the weather was very unusual for this time of year. The hotel's heating or maybe cooling system was inadequate for dealing with the temperature. So that's the context. The question will often give you the situation that you're complaining about. But remember, you'll have to use your imagination to fill in the details. I'm going to show you some suggestions for what we could write about. A, my hotel room was too cold because of the weather. B, my hotel room was too hot because of the weather. C, my hotel room was too cold because of the air conditioning. Or D, my hotel room was too hot because of the heating. Two of these we could write about for this question. Two of them don't match the information in the question. Look at the next question below this video and choose the two possible options we could write about for this question. So I could write about A, my hotel room was too cold because of the weather, or B, my hotel room is too hot because of the weather. The important word here is inadequate. So this means that the heating system was not hot enough, or the cooling system was not cold enough. A, the heating system was broken, and so my room was too cold because the weather was too cold. B, my cooling system or air conditioning was broken. It was too hot in my room because the weather was too hot. In C, we're saying that the air conditioning was too cold, so it was too effective. In D, we're saying that my hotel room was too hot, so the heating was too effective. So if I wrote about C or D, it would show that I didn't really understand the question completely. A and B are correct. So what do I need to do in this question? I need to decide on the context. The question gives me some information that I was in a hotel, in a city, and the weather was unusual. So I'm going to say that I went to London, and I went to London in the autumn, in October. The weather was unusual. So unusual weather in London in October would be very hot. That would be strange. So that's the context. So I'm going to go with B. My hotel room was too hot because of the weather. I also need to include the 3 bullet points in the question. So give details of the problem. This is when I explain when I arrived, how long I stayed for, and what my experience with the weather and my room was. I need to explain how I dealt with the problem. Did I try to fix it? Did I open a window? This is where I'd also talk about my experience dealing with the staff. Were they helpful or unhelpful? And then state what action you would like the hotel to take. This is where you politely explain what you want them to do about it. Would you like a refund? Would you like them to fix the problem in the future? So now that we've thought about what we're going to write, let's think about how we're going to structure our answer. Like all Task 1 letters, we're going to write 4 main paragraphs, and we're going to include a greeting and a sign-off at the end. So our 4 main paragraphs are the reason for writing. This will be the shortest paragraph, probably just 1 sentence. Then the 3 bullet points from the question. Remember, we must include all of those bullet points in our letter. I'd recommend that you follow the order of bullet points in the question. Firstly, so you don't forget anything, and secondly, because the question's order will be quite logical. Here we can see bullet point 1, you explain the problem, bullet point 2, how you dealt with the problem, and bullet point 3, what you want the hotel to do about it. So that's quite a logical order there, so we can stick with that. Because you're writing 150 words, you need to be looking to write about 40 to 50 words for each of these 3 paragraphs. Your reason for writing the sentence will be pretty short, and of course the greeting and sign-off don't take up many words. So like I say, 40 to 50 words for these bullet point paragraphs. So this is a formal letter. I'm going to start with Dear Sir/Madam, because I don't know the name of the hotel manager that I'm writing to. My reason for writing sentence needs to be a clear statement as to why I'm writing the letter. So for a letter of complaint, you need to make it very clear that this is a letter of complaint. The examiner or the reader will be reading that first sentence to identify why you are writing. So in this case, I'm writing to report an issue with the heating system in your hotel that I experienced during my last stay. One sentence explaining your reason for writing. Bullet point number 1, explain the problem. So this is where we're going to use some past verbs to give the narrative, to tell the story. Past simple, past continuous, past perfect. On the 23rd of June, my friends and I checked into your hotel. While we were unpacking, we realized that the heater hadn't been working. Something like that. Bullet point 2, how you dealt with the problem. Sometimes the question might ask you what the effects or the consequences of the problem are as well. Here, I'm going to say, as a result, we were forced to keep the windows open to let the cool air in, and maybe some insects bit me, something like that. Again, developing the story, giving some consequences. Bullet point number 3. This is where you're going to make a demand or a request. So you've told the situation, and now you're going to say what you want to happen in the future, or maybe in a conditional sentence. Due to the poor service, I would be grateful if you could refund my money. So we've got a conditional there. And of course, the sign off, this needs to be formal. I look forward to receiving your reply to show that you're expecting some response from the hotel, and yours faithfully, because in this case, I don't know the name of the person I'm writing to. During the 20 minutes that you spend writing your task 1 letter, you need to take at least 3 minutes to plan what you're going to write. Your letter needs to have a clear structure, and you need to cover all of the bullet points. So use this planning time to make some notes on ideas that you're going to write for each point. It's also an opportunity to practice some of those grammatical forms you're going to use. Make a note of some useful vocabulary you could include. Generally, you should write notes, and it doesn't matter if it's messy because the examiner is not going to read it. For your first paragraph, the reason for writing, this sentence needs to be really good. In fact, it's probably the most important sentence of your letter because it makes it clear what the purpose of the letter is. So in your planning time, I would recommend practicing this sentence and getting it right. So I've practiced my sentence. I am writing to make a complaint regarding the discomfort we felt at your hotel during our stay from the 21st to the 25th of October. So this is a formal letter, so that language is quite complex. It's quite a complex structure to the sentence, and it's a good thing that I've practiced that before I've started writing. For my 3 bullet points, I'm going to make notes of ideas to include. So I had to explain the problem. So I travelled with my wife. It was a holiday for our anniversary in London. There was a heat wave at the time. Temperatures reached 37 degrees. All of this information I can put in my sentences. The planning time is a time to think of your ideas so that you're not constantly thinking while you're writing. For bullet point 2, I'm going to talk about how I dealt with the problem. So we opened the windows, but the traffic was loud, there were insects. What was the result of that? My wife was bitten by the insects. I called reception, they weren't very helpful. They said that there was nothing that they could do. Make sure you're practicing those forms, get them right before you start writing. Bullet point 3, what do I expect? A refund or maybe compensation, which is a more formal word. Why? Because we paid a high price for the luxury suite. I appreciate this was unexpected, so I'm using polite language here and I'm practicing those forms here. I would suggest replacing the air conditioning systems, so this is one of your suggestions or proposals there. Now I'm going to show you some useful language you can use in each of those 4 paragraphs. Reason for writing, bullet point 1, bullet point 2, and bullet point 3. Here are 7 expressions we might use in those 4 paragraphs. I'd like you to think about which paragraph could we use it in. Look at the next question below this video and focus on the reason for writing paragraph. So that's paragraph 1. Which of these phrases, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, could we use in our reason for writing paragraph? Choose 2. In your reason for writing paragraph, you could start with B, I would like to make a complaint regarding. Regarding here meaning complaint about something. So this is fantastic for a formal letter. We could also start with E, I'm writing to complain about. This would be in a more semi-formal letter. Perhaps you might write this to your boss if you were having a dispute with a colleague. Notice the contraction of I'm there. So this is more semi-formal. So that's B and E for paragraph 1. What about the second paragraph? Look at the next question below this video and decide which of the expressions A to G could we use in paragraph 2. Choose the correct option. So in our second paragraph, where we need to explain the problem, we could start with F. What happened was that I opened the door to my room and I immediately felt, etc., etc. So a way of starting your story in the past. Now look at paragraph 3. So that's for bullet point 2, what effects did it have? Look at the next question below this video and again decide which of those expressions, A to G, could we use in this paragraph. Choose the correct option. So in this paragraph, we could start with A. So in paragraph 2, we've explained the problem. In paragraph 3, we're going to say, as a result of this problem, I couldn't do this, or I wasn't able to do this, or I was forced to do this. I couldn't, we could use with more semi-formal language. I was not able to would be more formal. I was forced to is something you had to do as a result. Finally, our fourth paragraph. This is when we make a demand, what we want the hotel or whoever you're writing to do about this situation. Look at the next question below this video and decide which of these expressions can we use in our fourth paragraph. Choose 3 correct options. So in our final fourth paragraph, we could use C. C is a concession. It's showing that you understand things may have been difficult for the person that you're complaining to. It makes your letter seem a little bit less angry and a little bit more understanding. For example, although I appreciate that this weather is unusual for this time of year, I still think that the air conditioning could have been better. We could also use D, having paid a large sum of money. So this participle clause, starting with an ing verb, gives the context of why we're demanding a refund, for example. Having paid a large sum of money, I feel entitled to the best quality service. And finally, G. Again, this is polite language showing that you want to come to an understanding. You're not being aggressive. I hope we can come to an agreement regarding this issue, for example. So how do we start and finish letters of complaint? Well, the question will sometimes tell you how to start. They might say, start your letter, Dear John, for example. If the letter tells you this, of course, you should use it. If the letter doesn't tell you how to start, then a formal letter will begin, Dear Sir/Madam. This is when we don't know the name of the person. If you're writing to a company, a business, or an organization, when you don't have contact with the person you're writing to, then you would probably use this expression. If, however, you probably know the name of the person you're writing to, then we'd use their surname. Dear Mr. Jones or Dear Mrs. Jones for a man or woman, respectively. A semi-formal letter, perhaps to a neighbour, a friend or a colleague, should use their first name, so Dear Susan. Remember, for surnames and first names, you will have to invent them if they are not given to you in the question. You can use an English-sounding name, or you can use a name from your own country or culture. It doesn't matter. As for finishing the letter, your final sentence should express some kind of desire that this problem is fixed or that you can come to some kind of agreement. So, I hope this matter can be resolved promptly. This is very formal. I look forward to hearing from you soon. You could even use both of these one after the other. As always, formal letters will end yours sincerely if you know the name of the person, for example, Dear Mr. Smith. Yours faithfully if you don't know the name of the person. Yours cordially can also be used to show that there is no anger involved. When it comes to semi-formal letters, we might say something like, I hope we can resolve this amicably. Notice now that we're including personal pronouns. Amicably means in a friendly way. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Notice the slight difference between I look forward to and I'm looking forward to with a contracted verb there. To sign off, all the best or kind regards are the best way of doing this. Okay, that is the end of the class. Now it's time to watch class 2 and then do any of the extra training and practice activities on this topic. Remember, if you have any questions for us, you can click on that chat icon at the top of your page there. You will be able to send us a message with any questions that you have. Thank you for listening.